Hey guys, and I'm here with a book review for Saphique by Catherine Fisher. This is the second book and the last book in the Incarceron series, which is only two books. I never reviewed the first one. I never got around to it, but I might go ahead and review it anyway. But these books are really great. I seriously enjoyed the first one. It ends with a huge cliffhanger, so I ran out right away and bought the second one because you can't read the first one and not have the second one. So if you're interested in reading this series, I definitely suggest you pick up both because you'll want to jump right into Saphique after you finish Incarceron. Since I never reviewed the first one, and I don't know if anybody here has actually read this book and is just watching for review, or if you're watching this review to find out if you want to read the series, I'll just go ahead over the basic overview because if I tell you anything about the plot in this one, it will spoil the first book. So the whole basic premise for the entire series is about a kingdom that is dystopian. It's set in the far future where a giant prison was created that is alive in itself. It's more like a computer, and they put all the prisoners in there and kind of left them in this prison so that nobody would have to deal with them. And they arranged the whole outside world to be back like in, I guess like Middle Ages, where there's no technology, nothing else to inhibit people from living just average lives. Everybody dresses that way. Nobody tries to make any movements forward in any way. They're all just kind of stuck the way they are. And there is a girl whose father is the warden of this prison, which is called Incarceron. And she was engaged to be married to the prince of this entire land, but he mysteriously disappeared before their marriage could happen. So she doesn't think he's dead. She thinks that something happened to him. And then, of course, we switch over to an Incarceron where a boy named Finn has woken up in there, and he doesn't remember anything about his past or who he was before. But he's living in Incarceron, and he's come in with this band of thieves and is running around in there. And then he finds this key. And through it, he can see through the key that the warden has, which the girl gets a hold of, and so they're able to see each other. And she thinks that he's the lost prince, and so she tries to help him to get out of the prison so that they can change everything back to the way that it should be in their land. The plot is very, very interesting. I had never read a book quite like this. Usually in these dystopian books that are set in the future, everything is very technologically advanced. It's more so. But in this one, they've gone back, and they have the technology that we have now. They just refuse to use it. So I think that that's very interesting, and it was a different take on that whole thing. And I really did enjoy the plot a lot. I can't say too much without giving a lot away because it's one of those books where if you say certain thing, then it might affect the way that you read it. So I won't say anything too much further. But the plot is very good. It can drag at certain points, but you always are looking forward to what's going to happen at the end. You're like, I know that they've got to get out. They've got to, and you want to keep reading. The characters are extremely interesting. Finn is the main character, and he is not anything like you'd imagine a prince would be. He's not very good at speaking. Well, he is, but he's a good liar. He isn't good at explaining what he really means and feels. He's basically an actor, and he feels badly about that, and he has a lot of guilt about certain events that happened in the book. But he does want to try to get out because he believes that the outside is where he'll feel like he's whole, and that's what's going to make him be able to live a better life. The princess she's a great heroine because she is not interested just solely in romance, and she's helping to rescue the prince this time, which is interesting. There is almost no romance in this book, which is shocking because you would think a girl trying to help her fiancé escape from a prison would have some romance, but there's really none. Which is a little bit refreshing because I feel like every book now has a love triangle in it, and this one really doesn't. So I thought she was really strong because she was willing to marry Finn even if she isn't in love with him anymore now that he's so different, to save the kingdom. She isn't having any qualms about true love and everything, which is sad, but I mean, I respect her for being such a strong character in that way. And then, of course, you've got all the supporting characters are all very interesting in their own right, but there are so many that I can't talk about all of them, but they're all very interesting, and there are some that are not who they seem, and they're mysterious, and you'll find out more about them as the book progresses, and they're completely different than you thought from the way they were pictured at first, which is really cool. The one character I do want to talk about, though, is Incarceron itself. Incarceron is an incredibly interesting character, which you wouldn't even think it would be a character because it's a prison. But the prison is alive, and it's almost like you'd imagine a computer would be. It wants to be outside, which is weird, but I mean, it's interesting at the same time because it doesn't want to be just a prison. It wants to be able to get rid of all of the prisoners and be able to feel outside just like people do, which is very interesting. And it makes for a very interesting villain because while it is an evil machine, you also feel sort of bad for it at the same time. The writing style is great. It's different than in a lot of books, but it has a really pretty style. Catherine Fisher's way of writing is very, very nice. It reminds me a bit of J.K. Rowling and Harry Potter, but even different than that. You kind of have to read it to understand what I mean. But the style it's set up in, it doesn't talk down to the reader, is probably what I'm trying to say here. She assumes that we have a certain level of knowledge and are able to think through certain things ourselves and figure out what's going on. She doesn't feel the need to explain every little thing to us, which I appreciated because a lot of books, even for young adults or adults, do that. They assume that the reader is stupid or unable to figure something out for themselves just by reading it, and that they have to go ahead and explain to us what's going on. So I appreciate that she does that in these books. So the series is really good. I would suggest it, definitely. The ending is not like I expected at all. I was a bit disappointed, honestly. I don't want to give a lot away. Like I said, I always seem to say that in all my reviews because I hate spoiling stuff for people. But I was not completely happy with the ending because I almost felt like that was also a cliffhanger and there should be another book, but I'm pretty sure she doesn't have any plans to make it a trilogy, which sucks, but I wish that she would write another book just because this one does leave a lot of questions. So while the main threats have been eliminated, there's still a lot of things that we don't know how they're going to work out, and I would have liked to read another book just to see how everybody handles everything later on. But the series itself is still excellent, and I would definitely suggest it. Apparently they're making a movie version now, just like they're out of every book. But that's one I would definitely be interested in seeing because the books are excellent. So I highly suggest that you check them out.